Hello everybody and welcome to the second edition of Eye Contact. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to all the positive feedback I got for the first episode. It really meant more to me than a lot of people realise. It meant so much and it's really made me feel positive about doing this going forward. So today I wanted to talk about a subject that I know a lot of people with Asperger's do struggle with, and actually I personally did used to struggle with a while ago, and still to a point struggle with it today. Not quite as much as I used to, but there's still the odd occasion where I do find it difficult to differentiate between the two, and that's the difference between suggestion and being ordered. What I mean by that is a lot of people with Asperger's who I've personally interacted with, and I myself used to struggle with this as well, like I said, often find it difficult to differentiate when an NT is saying something just to suggest something to them, or if that person actually is subtly trying to tell them, like order them to do something. Now, I know this doesn't apply to everybody with the syndrome because obviously it affects us all differently. As I say, this is just speaking from my personal experience through people with the same condition who I've interacted with. For example, say like an Asperger's person has the day free and a neurotypical person they know is going to work. The NT might say to them, hey, if you feel like it, you can pop in and see me if you want. I mean, I don't think it'll be a particularly busy day, so if you feel like popping by, please do. Now, that to an NT is just a harmless comment saying, if you want to come by, you will, but an Aspie may perceive that as, oh, that person has said, if I said that I can pop in if I want to see them, that means I have to go and see them because obviously they want me to, otherwise they wouldn't have said it in the first place, thinking there's a hidden meaning behind behind the suggestion. And it doesn't even necessarily just have to apply to suggestion. I'm just using this as an example in this case. As I said, I used to think quite a lot that when people suggested things like that to me, that meant that I was duty bound to do it, that the person was expecting me to do it. And it's only in later years that I've realised that when an NT makes a suggestion like that, well, that's all it is. It's a suggestion. It's not an order, it's a suggestion. There's no hidden meaning behind it. And quite often when an NT says something like that, it's just because they think it's something you might enjoy, but they understand you might choose not to. They understand that it might not be something you're up to, it might conflict with your routine for the day, or whatever. They're just saying if you'd like to, you can. It literally just means what they say on the surface. There's normally no hidden meaning behind it. I know it's scary when you can't read body language and you can't read facial expressions, but when NTs say things, especially if it's people who are close to you, like friends or family, people who know you, people who you trust, they're not usually that complicated in the way that they speak. Quite often what they say is what they mean. And quite honestly, if there is hidden meaning behind it, there's no way of us knowing, so until there's evidence to suggest otherwise, I think it's best to just take it at face value, and quite oftentimes they do mean what they mean at face value. Again, oftentimes they're just suggesting it because it sounds nice and it might be something you enjoy doing, but they don't know 100% for sure that you definitely will. And oftentimes, if you don't take them up on their suggestion, they don't take offence to it because, again, it was just that. It was just a suggestion, and you have the right to say no to it. And saying no isn't necessarily rude. I mean, yes, you can say no in a particularly rude way, which I hope you won't, but you can't just say, thank you, but that doesn't really sound like my thing. And honestly, most of the time, the NTs aren't offended at all. Now, obviously, this also can come down to what kind of situation it is. Like, popping in to see someone at work, that's kind of a small thing, but if it's like an event that's really important to the person, I understand that can also be quite difficult to say no to because you'll feel like you're letting the person down. But if it's something you really don't feel like you can handle, if you just sit down and talk it out with the person, like discover how important it is to them, but also get a better idea of what the event actually is, and then talk about whether or not you'll be able to handle it or not, then, you know, if you explain really why, you know, you'd love to support them, but just really feel like you wouldn't be able to handle it in that situation, most of the time they'll understand that as well if you take the time to sit down and explain to them. A good tip I can give to the NTs out there as well when you're making a suggestion to someone with Asperger's is something my family do with me quite a lot now, which I really appreciate, is when you make a suggestion, do try to point out to them, I'm just making a suggestion though, you really don't have to do it, I won't be offended at all if you don't do it, you just do what you'd like to do. Oftentimes I feel like that really takes the pressure off me, and then I have the time to think about what they've suggested and think, you know what, maybe I would like to do it, or maybe the opposite, I don't really feel like that's for me, but you know, they've told me if I decide against it, it's no impact on them, so I don't feel bad about it. So yeah, I think that's a good compromise on the NT side of things. Just make sure you specify that your suggestion is just that, a suggestion, and it's not an order. But on the Asperger side of things, most of the time when people say things like that, and sometimes they may just forget to specify whether it's an order or not, but oftentimes it is not an order, it's a suggestion, and you will not upset the person if you don't take them up on that suggestion. This is a subject I do plan on revisiting as well, because like I said, it doesn't just necessarily apply to suggestion. That's just the example I'm using here, but quite a lot of time, I know people with Asperger's, and I used to do this as well, look for hidden meanings in things NT say that really aren't there. So I will come back to this at a later date. I just wanted to talk about the topic of suggestion in this video. But thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it helpful and informative, and again, big thank you for all the positive feedback I got on the first video, and I do hope you will continue to watch these videos in the future. But if you don't, I will not take offence to it, but if you'd like to continue watching them, please do, but if you don't, I honestly don't mind. So thank you very much, and I shall see you later.